Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Nathan Ibanez, and today I'm going to be talking to you about speeches and how to make them the best possible. Now, there are four types of speeches that we have, at least standardly. They're known as impromptu, extraneous, memorized, and manuscript. Each of these speeches has some form of pro and con, and I'm going to be teaching you about that today. They'll have unique characteristics, and although they all have unique characteristics, there are certain principles that are universal to giving a good speech, and I'm also going to be talking to you about that today. Okay, so first off, the four types of speeches. As I just told you, they are manuscript, impromptu, extraneous, and memorization. So, impromptu is a sort of spontaneous speech. They are short, but spontaneous. You don't really prepare for them. All you can really do is improve your speaking skills and practice them. They are typically used in a workplace setting or in a team setting, which makes them especially important in your life. If you're going to go far in your career or in life in general, you're going to have to get good at giving impromptu speeches. Alright? So, impromptu, first one. The second speech is extraneous. This is my favorite type of speech personally because I feel that extraneous speeches allow you to give the best type of speech. These are carefully planned and practiced speeches so that when you finally give a speech, they are very natural. The speaker looks like they know what they're talking about because they do. They've practiced it, they've outlined it to a point where it's almost perfect. Although no speech is ever perfect. You can always improve. That's the second speech, extraneous. The third speech is memorized. So memorized speeches are typically used in, I would say, memorized speeches aren't really good to be used at all. The reason for this is because although you can use memorized speech, and it isn't the worst type of speech in my opinion, it has its disabilities. And that would be that when you memorize a speech, oftentimes you aren't really focused on the idea the speech is trying to project. When you memorize a speech, you are focusing on the words, what to say. You're not focusing on the ideas behind those words necessarily. And this leads you to sound sometimes monotone, like a robot, like you're just repeating something. And although it's not the worst type of speech, you should definitely aim to go for extraneous so that you can sound natural when you're speaking, so that your audience hears you and they know you know what you're talking about. The last type of speech I'm going to talk about right now is manuscript. Now, manuscript has the same sort of drawback that memorized has. You can't really use it in much applications or in general. If you were to only do manuscript speeches throughout your entire career or your entire life, people would think that you don't know how to speak because, again, you're going to sound really monotone. Manuscript is written, so you're going to sound really monotone. You're going to be reading off of the paper. You're not going to be making direct eye contact with the audience. And it's okay to look at your outline every now and then in your extraneous speeches. But with manuscripts, you are simply reading off a teleprompter, or a paper. And you don't want to do this because, again, it's going to look like you don't know what you're doing. You're going to sound very boring. And it generally just goes against the rules of speaking in general. Okay, so now that we've gone over the four types of speeches, I'm going to give you tips on how to make those speeches better. Whatever four that you do end up choosing, there are certain tips that you can follow that will make any of your speeches instantly 100 times better. It'll put you all the way up there against everybody else, because not everybody practices these specific, I would say, behaviors. So yeah. Okay. So, you want to be simple so that your listeners can understand you. You want to use repetition so that you can cement ideas that you're trying to project. And you want to do all this while maintaining good eye contact, a clear speaking voice, and confidence. Again, you want to use repetition, and using repetition will cement these ideas that you're trying to project. You want to do this while keeping it simple. And you want to keep good eye contact, a clear speaking voice, and confidence. So, along with that, in order to improve your speeches, you want to use forms of imagery. By imagery, I mean being descriptive. Being descriptive and simple so that you don't confuse your audience. For example, I would say, if I was talking about a dog, I wouldn't just say, oh, I saw a cute dog. I would say, I saw a cute dog with floppy ears and a long tail. Or, if I was talking about a cat, I wouldn't just say, oh, I saw a cat today. I would say, I saw a gray cat with black rings going around it. Something like that. You would simply just want to be more descriptive while keeping that simplicity in order to allow your audience to think. If you are not able to allow your audience to think while you're presenting, you're not going to be able to connect to them. And if you don't connect to them, they're not going to pay attention to you. You don't really want that, because if they don't pay attention to you, then there's no point in speaking. They don't get what you're talking about. And that's really the main point of giving a speech. If you're giving a speech, you want to convey an idea to the audience. You want to either inform, persuade, or entertain. And if you're not doing it, then you have work to do. Okay. Along with these ideas, you want to avoid cliches. Cliches are overused, I would say overused metaphors, or just overused anything. So if your audience has already heard it, chances are they're going to get bored of it. So, unless you radically present it differently. But you want to avoid cliches, because again, that doesn't keep your audience engaged. You want to avoid mixed metaphors. What mixed metaphors do is you incorrectly connect to ideas. And when you do this causes a real problem, because when you incorrectly connect to ideas, you are not going to be able to, I guess, look relevant to your audience. It's not going to look like what you're talking about. So, yeah. Keep in mind the tips I gave you. Be simple, yet be concise. Be simple, yet use imagery and concrete language so that your audience can create an image in their head or connect to your speech in some way. And project confidence, be clear, and make good eye contact. And when choosing these 4 speeches, really consider what I said. Manuscript, reading off paper. Extemporaneous, you sound more natural because you actually know what you're talking about. Impromptu is going to be really helpful in your career if you master it. And memorization, again, you have that issue of being too monotone. So yeah, thank you for listening to my speech. I really appreciate it. Have a great night.